Quelqu'un nous donne le go? Good afternoon. The Hi Paris Center on Data Analytics and Artificial Intelligence for Science, Business and Society is 3 years old. One of its very first actions was to celebrate the International Day of Women and Girls in Science with a round table. Today, I am delighted to introduce you to the third Hi Paris Roundtable honoring women and girls in science all around the globe. My name is Anne-Laure Cellier. I am a researcher and professor of behavioral science at HEC Paris, and I will be moderating this event. In the name of Hi Paris, I wish to wholeheartedly thank L'Oréal for welcoming us in such a special venue. In past roundtables, we enjoyed a gender-balanced panel of guests, mindful that we were to set up a conversation between men and women, such as that we want to see in scientific careers. Today, however, we chose to do things a little differently. The gender gap in scientific careers remains acute. Still today, we have work to do. And at Hi Paris, we noticed one unfortunate, lingering characteristic of public events around gender balance in the past few years. They tend to involve primarily women who talk to audiences primarily composed of women. This is a problem. Gender balance is a societal issue. It is not, and it cannot be, a woman's affair. So in order to bring the gender balance conversation back where it belongs, acknowledging the critical role that both men and women have in allowing women and girls in science to fully unleash their potential throughout their careers, we decided that today we would hear from 3 men who every day relentlessly work at making gender balance actually happen in scientific careers. You might say, why the imbalance this year? To which we reply, to even things out in the public space, and to honor women and girls in science by not leaving men aside. If we want real gender balance in scientific careers, it has to be everyone's affair. Without further ado, let me introduce all of our guests today. Patrick Masseglia, bonjour. You are the VP Head of Sector Telco, Retail and Energy within Capgemini Cloud Infrastructure Services. You have occupied different sales and management positions in the business of digital companies in particular for nearly 30 years. You are a co-sponsor of Women at Capgemini, which is a program setting guidelines to reach gender balance across the whole group and aimed at sharing best practices. For the past 3 years, diversity and gender equity has become your thing. Stéphane Lanuzel, bonjour. You are the Beauty Tech Program Director for L'Oréal and our host today. Thank you again for that. Beauty Tech is a worldwide cross-métier program which aims at making L'Oréal the first beauty tech company, developing innovative services for consumers and building AI-powered applications for employees. You manage the Tech Accelerator teams, gathering more than 120 talents, such as designers, product managers, data scientists, and tech leaders across 5 hubs in Paris, New York, Toronto, Singapore, and Shanghai. Your team builds, deploys, and scales advanced AI-powered applications and services. Dimitri Betebgor, bonjour. You are head of AI engineering at Schneider Electric after spending your early years working for Airbus, Philips, or the French Defense Ministry, for example. Your current everyday job involves teaching deep learning techniques, act as an AI expert. You advised, among other institutions, the French Social Security. And you love to ponder over what human evolution the ongoing technological transformation is going to lead to, with a focus on making gender balance part of it. Finally, and the good news for today, is that as hard as we try to only have men take part in this round table, we couldn't. Indeed, our last guest is none but the executive director of HiParis, Raphaël Gauthier. Raphaël, you lead the development of the center around its 3 pillars: research, education, and innovation. A determined focus on gender balance as you move forward is an integral part of your mission. Your commitment to supporting women in scientific careers and in general is not new, however. Throughout your career, you have created value in very different ecosystems, working in strategic management for L'Oréal, Hermès, and LVMH, for example. Your diverse experience allows you to be well aware of a rich set of actionable best practices of promoting gender balance in STEM careers. So we look forward to hearing the 4 of you share for a little over 1 hour the best practices around reaching gender balance, particularly in scientific careers. But before we delve into that, I'd like to ask you a first question, which is why did gender balance become such a strong focus of your careers today? Why do you spend so much time and energy at these advanced stages of your careers to a mission like this one? Patrick?
Okay, thank you, Anne-Laure, for this question. Good morning, everyone. I love my company. And as a man of operations, I've got to hire a lot of newcomers, and more precisely within the new generation, because our model is to hire 70% of young generation, newcomers. And I think, I'm convinced, new generation has strong expectations with CSR commitment of the companies they will join. And as a leader, if we want to remain a leader, we have to change something to foster the woman position in the company in order to drive gender balance more far in the future, to remain attractive. And today is a big challenge for us. And 3 years ago, I understood that it could be interesting to involve personally in the movement Women at Capgemini. And little by little, I became co-sponsor of the movement with my counterpart Valérie Masson-Cabanac. And we are driven the movement together in a duo, a woman and a man. It's more than a symbol, it's a kind of philosophy, and I will come back to this point later. But we are convinced that we have to empower women tomorrow in leveraging the empowerment of men currently.
So gender balance at the top to manage teams directly, so gender balanced leadership?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Stéphane?
Thank you, Anne-Laure. So first, hello to everybody, and a warm welcome in L'Oréal office. And this office is the site where we do research and innovation, and that's good that we have this discussion about women in science in this particular building. So if I think of why gender balance is very important, I think it's not a question of how men can help women to develop or how maybe women can help men to develop, is how men and women can create an environment where we can develop, we can attract talents, we can develop skills. So it's really my role, and that's the mission that I see, is how together, men and women, we create that environment. And as you said, I'm leading the beauty tech. So, and the motto of beauty tech is to invent the beauty of the future. A beauty that is inclusive, a beauty that is for all, and a beauty that is for each. So tech is part of that. So obviously, girls and women have a strong role to play in inventing that beauty. So it's why, for me, it's very important to have women in my team, because we are shaping the future of beauty. Then if I step back a little bit, when you look at L'Oréal, we have more women than men. We have 55% women and 45% men. So you said, okay, fine, the job is done. But no, because we need also women in tech, and I'll share with you the numbers later on. And I think what I've seen in terms of team dynamics, in terms of the ability to be more creative, to listen to each other. When you have a very diverse team, you go to a next level in terms of creativity, in terms of innovation. That's what we've seen in the rest of the organization. So that's what we apply also in tech. And the third point, why gender balance is key, because we are looking for talents. And talents is a war, and we are a scarcity in terms of talents. And if we look only for talents in half of the population, that's not good. And it's why we are pulling the entire population. Now, let me give you, and I'll be short, a story of one of my team members that is in the room today. It's Mia, and Mia was, very good at school, leading, at the top ranking during the lycée and the studies afterwards. And then she joined the tech, and she joined a tech company where there was almost only men. And really there, she was challenged. It was difficult to create, to innovate, to play with her skills. And hopefully, she joined L'Oréal, where we have a much more inclusive and diverse. I can tell you that Mia is one of the key talents. Now she's really contributing to our team. So it's why making sure that we create that environment where talents can develop is why gender balance is so important for me.
Excellent, thank you. And by the way, the bulk of modern management research completely converges with what you see at L'Oréal, which is that diverse teams and gender balanced teams are not only fairer from a societal point of view, they're also better. They perform better, something we call collective intelligence in research. Raphaël.
Yeah, thank you, Anne-Laure. Thank you for having us today, and happy to have people online and on site. For me, there are two things. Maybe the more personal one. I think the first encounter with scientific careers as a woman was from my aunt. She is a biologist, and she created her own medical analysis laboratory before becoming the managing director of 2 laboratories. So quite a role model, because it is a male-dominated environment. And that was something showing that it is possible to be a woman with a scientific career, even being an entrepreneur, creating our own company. And once I started to work, so as you mentioned, I worked in the cosmetics, so it was more, like Stéphane said, more female-dominated environments. So the way to gender balance was more through diversity, and what you mentioned, the fact that having various backgrounds, also functions. When you work around a project, you have the labs, you have the designers, you have the development and commercial teams. So it was more like not men, women, but more diversity. How do you bring everybody to thrive and have projects to better perform? And last but not least, I'm a proud mother of a daughter, 18 years old, and I've always encouraged her into careers or perspective of careers without boundaries. So that's really important for me to be sure that she has equal opportunity, even in terms of perspective. We'll see afterwards, but perspective first.
Interesting, thank you, Raphaël. Dimitri?
Well, thanks, Anna. To answer first your question, why should we bother about gender balance in our companies or in our professional life? My first answer, my first point would say we have no other choice. And that there's the world out there with equally represented genders, and the companies in which we work should reflect somehow this word. If we fail to reflect that word, then we would fail to attract talent, as you said, Stéphane. But also we would fail in our mission because we don't run companies, but we are part of companies. I think most of these companies are not like typically French anymore, but global companies with people working from, let's say, everywhere in the world. And if we want to succeed in our motto, that could be to create the beauty, or for Schneider to create a more sustainable world, or at least to act to do so, we definitely have to care about inclusion, about care. This should be at the heart of our, let's say, professional management, and this in turn implies also to guarantee to all our employees and collaborators to work in a safe zone, I would say, with respect to that. And also from a, let's say, HR perspective, it has been said, or at least showed, that companies that are more inclusive or that take care about gender inclusion and so on, usually succeed more in terms of talent acquisition and also turnover reduction and so on. So this is also not only a moral question, but also a very, let's say, successful way to improve your company. And finally, from a personal perspective, I'm also the father of two teenagers, and I would rather be, let's say, annoyed if they could not join the companies that they would like or work in the sector they would like, in comparison to, let's say, like 20 or 30 years, where some domains were at least said to be for men, or at least male-dominated. So that's the reason why we should bother, and I personally bother.
Okay, so since you've thrown this on the table, 2 daughters, 1 daughter. What about you, Stéphane?
1 daughter.
What about you, Patrick?
1 son.
1 son. Bravo, Patrick, because research shows that actually parents of daughters are, strangely enough, strongly in favor of gender balance in companies. But, and it's interesting, parents of boys tend to be incredibly conservative. So here is the first message of this roundtable. If you are raising men and boys, particularly in science, please make them pro-gender balance. You would really help society, as I hope we're going to demonstrate in the next hour and 15 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, we have that amount of time to share the best practices. So as we discussed in preparing this event, we're really trying to get to insights from all of your experiences about what our auditors can take away in terms of inspiration, in terms of concrete actions that they can implement, maybe tomorrow, why not, from what you've seen in the past. And because you're our host, Stéphane, the floor is yours first. Can you please share what are the best things at L'Oréal happening at the moment?
Yeah, it's always a difficult question to say what are the best things, and especially in L'Oréal, because we are a very organic company. We like to have a lot of initiatives. We are not a process company, so I don't have a process to describe and to say this is what we follow to reach a certain number in terms of gender balance. So it's more very organic. So what I'm going to give you some examples of what we've been doing that have popped up in the different part of L'Oréal. Before doing that, if I look at tech and science, so basically there are a few parts where we work on in tech and science. We have what we call the operations. That's 20,000 people that are developing products, doing the supply chain and the manufacturing. There we have more than 50% of the engineers that are women. In the tech part, which is around 2,000 people in L'Oréal, it's 36%. So we've reached 36%, which is good. Our goal obviously is to reach 50%, but 36% is where we stand at the end of 2023. So what are we doing to promote gender balance? The first ideas, or group of ideas or initiatives is around mentoring. So we started in 2013. We creating a program which is called the Women in Digital. But digital was really the broad acceptation of the term digital. It was marketing, it was technology, it was IT, and it was data. And they had 3 main objectives. First was to empower girls and women in their career evolution, really through circle mentoring, through co-development, to really say, look, you can develop, this is what you have to do, and you can grow your career. And for that, we had the chance to have some some leaders that are at very senior position in tech. I'll start with Barbara Lavernos, which is the head of research and innovation and technology of the group, and also deputy CEO. My boss for the last 8 years. So I've been working with girls or women in science for a long time. And I think Barbara is helping and coaching because she started as a young engineer in one of our plants. Then she moved to business, leading travel retail, then moving to operation, and now being the deputy CEO. So I think having these leaders being truly sharing what they've been doing, sharing also the challenges, and doing that with our women in tech or science is helping. And we also have the 2 CIOs of the big zones in Americas and in North Asia are also women. So we have some strong example at the top of the company of women in science and technology that are really giving back time to coach and to help. We also work a lot on inspiring, so with employees' testimony and obviously starting with the leaders, but also all the people where we do some video, some captures of what I've been doing, what I think, what does it mean to be a woman in science or a woman in tech in L'Oréal, and share that to really inspire. But we also go outside because you need to be inspired by the outside world, and we also have people that come and give testimony on what it means to be a successful woman in that environment. But it also starts at the next generation. When we look at summer jobs, internships, we pay special attention to make sure that they are the very beginning we are attracting women talents. So that's a lot of initiatives that we do. We also engage a lot with external organizations because we don't think that we have all the solution internally. So things like Girls Who Code that we work with. In the US, the women leaders in data and AI. So there are some association that we can work with and that really helping us. Even some robotics startup that we've been partnering in our headquarters in the US, where they've created they have invented a robot that is now visible in the office. So it's a lot of small initiatives. I will also quote because for us it's important. So I've mentioned the recruitment part, the intern, the summer jobs. I've mentioned the coaching. I've mentioned that we work externally, but we do also a lot of investment in tech because we have our own venture fund. And for us, in their objective, in terms of the type of company they invest in, having a woman founder or a woman CEO is key. And 30% of the startups that we have been investing in are woman-funded, woman-created, or woman-led. And that's important. That's an important decision that we've taken in having that in the criteria, because as when we develop, we are working more and more with the full ecosystem, so making sure that in that ecosystem we also favor this type of startup. In terms of recruitment, so there we have a KPI, and then we are really tracked on making sure that we attract more. 50% of our recruitment are women. So that's a strong KPI that we follow and that we are measured. But I cannot talk about what we've been doing in L'Oréal without talking about an initiative that is for women in science that we've launched 25 years ago. Even when that topic was not that popular. So it's in partnership with UNESCO. I don't know how to say that in English. I think it's the same. And basically there are different elements in that partnership. So over the past 25 years, we've awarded like 4,400 women in science, and with if I take the the laureates of the international prize is 127 women that have been awarded, 7 of which have the Nobel Prize. That's really visible. That's really visible internally, and that's really also helping to see that it's possible and that we are really serious about that initiative. But it doesn't stop there. What we've been doing in that program recently, that we have also broadened the scope, and in 2023, the Europe winner was Professor Kirwan, and her field is mathematics. And the USA North America winner is Professor Regev, and her field is mathematics and computer science. So we've moved from traditional biology to really also computer science and technology. But that's on the top program. But we are also supporting some what we call for girls in science, which is helping lycéennes, so people that are attending high school in France. So we are supporting 230 lycéennes. Supporting means 3 things. First is helping, teaching, and doing cours du soir or support, really to help them develop their in science. Supporting the parents also. Because if it's as you've said, it's important to also teach, or I don't know, educate the parents that it's possible, and you can grow a career in science when you are a woman, and that you should tell your daughter that this is feasible, and that they should do that, and also exposing these lycéennes to some examples of career in companies. So that's also some, I know it may sound small because it's only 230, but that's all these different initiatives that we are doing. As you see, it's very organic. And I'll finish with, and Raphael knows it, one of the key message because that I like to share with you, and it's probably a bit French, but let's do it. Yeah, it's in the way the education system is done in France. We have école d'ingénieur and business school, and I think already, when we are talking and when we are thinking that way, école d'ingénieur, IP Paris, it's okay. You will go in operations, in science and technology. When you go in HEC, you are for business, and I think and you know me, Raphael. I've been fighting for that cliché that is creating this already imbalance gender. You can be an engineer and do business all your life long. Sorry, and I think we should also promote that it's not because you study business that you will go in business and engineering that you will do only engineering, because otherwise we are creating that inequality right from the beginning.
Absolutely, and that stereotype still lingers on in schools today. You can still hear professors go like, you're more a literature person or more a science person, when you can actually excel at both. If you have any doubt, Plato wrote fantastic mathematical courses and philosophy courses, the whole thing integrated. And let's remember that in ancient Greece, people used to learn math and music and philosophy. It was one subject matter, and we seem to have forgotten that. So I retain from what you're saying that a plethora really of initiatives. You say 230, it's not a lot, it seems it's pretty decent, right? You insist, and that's very interesting, on the fact that while you do design these initiatives, you allow a lot of room for to allow the culture to remain organic. Can you maybe elaborate on that a little bit, on that aspect?
Yeah, that's very L'Orealian. So we have that big theme, and we say this is important, and then we'll let the creativity of the people really come up with the different initiatives. So and because we have people in 70 countries, it really comes from local initiative with local external organization, and then what we are good at is then cross-fertilizing, sharing, showcasing. This is a good initiative, and we have also some award like the Diversity and Inclusion Award, where basically there is like a sort of competition where you can showcase, the initiative that you've been doing. So we start with at country level, then at zone level, and then you have at the group level. So you present your initiative, then it's shared. So that is helping two things. First is to develop the creativity of these people on these topics. Also to give the opportunity for the people that are really into it to really say, okay, I won't do that. And yeah, that's something that is also very important, is that when you create that space and you say, go for it, you are amazed how many people have good ideas. And when you create the environment for them to stand up on that topics, many people do so. So for us, it's not because it's compulsory or it's processed. It's because we create the environment, a little bit the competition, and you need to show, and you want to share with the rest of the world your initiative. That is really fostering the creativity, and then some of these initiatives are starting small, and then they are spread.
So you put in place a systemic change that is the minimum required to allow maximal creativity to occur.
Exactly.
Alors, you said it's very L'Oréalian, so our problem now is to understand whether at other companies, at other organizations, you can have the luxury of that approach. And here I'd like to turn to Dimitri next, because Dimitri, as I said in our introduction, you've spent time at Airbus, Philips, now Schneider Electric. This is it seems to me stereotypically a very male-dominated path, Ministry of Defense also. What's your look at what you experience today and what you implement at Schneider Electric? Are you L'Oréalian?
Yeah, I'd rather say yes, in the sense that we do not, at Schneider Electric, we do not force things, or we do not implement like processes, standard processes to happen, to have specific objectives in terms of gender balance. Even though we do have like high objectives, typically this is about 30% of women at the leadership level, 40% at the manager, and 50% for recruitment, for global recruitment. This is like the overall objective at the AI Hub at Schneider, which, by the way, runs all the AI activities within Schneider. It could be for internal or external products. So this is about 300 people located in India, US, France. But just to go back to your question and to compare with the current situation at Schneider, first, I'd say that the key is the recruitment and the specific attention that we should pay to the open-mindedness of our collaborators. If I compare to like the companies you mentioned, I mean, I don't want to be specific, but let's just take the example of like the aerospace or defense sector. Yes, they might seem quite male-dominated, but also, at least a couple of years ago, I would say that they were very local in the sense that they depend on a very specific domain, at a very specific location. They might have like location all around the world, but they still have like a heart in, I don't know, in Paris, Toulouse, for instance. While typically now at Schneider, we do not specifically run everything from France or from India, and our collaborators are naturally open to work with different cultures in different, let's say, time zones, in different locations. And I think this is a key for a better gender balance. Why that? Because if you care about other cultures more than, let's say, a typically French-owned company, then you would naturally pay attention to the differences, to the details, to the gender inequalities, for instance. And I think this is precisely where we stand and where we we happen to have now more than 30, about 30% of women for tech positions within the AI hub. And at the recruitment, we ask specifically that, are you interested? We do not ask question on the, are you into gender balance, for instance? This is not a question to ask, but are you into working with different cultures? Are you interested by, I don't know, going to India, to US, or to, and I think this implies at the end, let's say, a greater attention to gender balance. This
simply more curiosity.
Yeah.
Open-mindedness.
So kind of an organic way to go for a better gender balance. Yeah.
Right. And in terms of concrete actions, so you say we do design, and we try to remain organic, but are there like a few initiatives in particular?
Yeah, we've
that you
been.
can elaborate on?
We started that about 20 years ago by different initiatives, typically women in digital groups all around Schneider Electric. But more recently, we joined several initiatives like Women in AI, for instance, specifically for our tech position. Because I think this is an important aspect here also. Is we, let's say, leverage the difference with the new people coming from the tech and AI. I mean, L'Oréal, Cap, Total are not tech by definition. They are R&D companies for sure, but they are not tech in the sense that AI, data are new jobs. These are new people, a new generation to be managed, and we with new consideration, new aspects like ethics, compliance, for instance, and we leverage that in the sense that we take advantage of the, let's say, the questions raised by AI and tech aspects to imply our collaborators on that. One specific example, we've got in all our AI activities, we've got AI ethics session. We are going to use some specific data that might be, I don't know, personal data, for instance. And we ask the question about, let's say, the legal, the ethics, and the compliant aspect of that use. And naturally, this raised the question of gender balance, because you consider ethical questions, which is, I think, new when I compare to, I don't know, aircraft companies, for instance. By in such a company, you don't question the ethics or of the aircraft. While in data and AI, you have to. So that's a kind of a concrete way also to force that. And the other action is we pay specific attention to create squads, technical squads working on one specific AI use case. Obviously, we cannot guarantee to have half of the people working on that on a specific use case to be women, but we pay specific attention to that. And since we have less women than men, that makes naturally women more visible.
It creates opportunities for them.
And
fast tracks.
And the last concrete, we are part of that Women in AI initiative. Which create mentoring sessions between, this is not only a Schneider thing, but there are other companies. So the idea is to have mentoring session between mentors, who could be men or women, with mentoree, sorry. And just to create kind of a safe zone, not to be like a mentor, like in the old-fashioned way, but rather just to create safe zones where people can just ask, I don't know, can talk about whatever they want in terms of career, in terms of tech, in terms of whatever. And I know that the word mentor might be a bit, problematic.
It's interesting. In research, there is plenty of data suggesting that the best way to help women and to empower women in scientific careers or not is to champion them, to mentor them. And it's interesting to see that, particularly for younger generations today, these are words that are hard to hear because they tend to be interpreted as condescending, as meaning that they need help, which is by no means the intention. Do you think we need new words in management?
Yeah, yeah. I think also the word manager hasn't changed. I mean, we still use that word, at least for French companies. I'm myself a manager, and I used to have like managers in old companies, and I now think that the way you manage, at least people in tech, is definitely, especially in large companies like L'Oréal, Cap, Total, or Schneider, is totally different from the way people used to be managed like 30 years ago in similar companies. In the sense that now you should pay attention to create an inclusive atmosphere. You should pay attention to, I mean, not to go into too many conflicts, I would say, or at least to find safe zones to discuss about that. So you should pay specific attention, especially if you want to guarantee, if you want to attract talent. I mean, I've been myself a manager, and I know that it's for like 10 years now, and it's been changing the way you manage tech people and young people.
So it's interesting because in what you described, Dimitri, it seems that what's happening to society outside of your organizations is obviously penetrating, whether you like it or not, the organizations, and that this directly and indirectly can benefit the women in scientific careers, in the sense that on the one hand your culture is changing fundamentally, generally, and that it brings side topics such as ethics, as you were saying, that can benefit. So it's interesting because to import gender balance in an organization, perhaps it's not necessarily actions that are on gender balance that are going to have the most traction, but maybe those sidekicks that perhaps with longer time, but more surely, can bring a change in the culture. Would you agree with that? Yeah.
Maybe thinking of what you're saying, I think it's two things. First, we develop more and more algorithms, AI algorithms that are trained, and we had that thinking. If you have product teams with only male, it's probably 100% sure that they won't see potential bias that you will have in your data set. So having a team that is mixed, working on the development of the application, will also make sure that you have different pair of eyes with different background, that will make sure that you are not creating bias. And if it's not that men will on purpose create bias, but it's not because they don't see it. And I think it's important, and that's what we do, that we have mixed him. I'll give you one example. We tag to train some of the algorithms. We tag some pictures by dermatologists on some of the skin concern that you may have, and we've seen that if you ask only male dermatologists to tag the same set of images, and if you ask a more diverse group, you get different results. So meaning that in the end, you need to make sure that in every action that you do, you have this diversity, because it will improve the overall result. And then to your question on the title, or should we change the words? I know, and that we have some debates with some of the younger generation. My point of view, and it's a personal point of view, is that when we only debate about words and way of saying things, that's not really discussing the true issue, or finding the solution. So my take is that let's create an environment where we can talk easily, in a transparent way, without jumping at each other because we've used that word of that word right from the beginning. And I think probably that goes beyond gender balance. We live in a society where when we have a topic to discuss, because of a word, because of a saying, we are already fighting with two groups. And I think let's try to create that environment where we can discuss this topic in a very quite smooth and not starting arguing on the words.
So maybe perhaps instead of mentoring and management, simply a conversation. By the end of our encounter, I will ask you to suggest new words for managers around based on your experiences. So I'm not grilling you just now. We still have to hear everything that Patrick Massiglia has seen and directly driven inside of Capgemini to improve gender balance. Patrick, you come from the south of France today to be with us, which is highly appreciated. What do you have to share with us? Best practices.
Okay, I will go to achievements and project we drive in Women at Capgemini. But first of all, I would like to let me say some words about our philosophy and the way we see how we can reach a better gender balance in the company. First of all, Capgemini is a very huge company all over the world with 350 people. And so each country is different than the other. So Women at Capgemini exist all over the world in each country of the group. And so philosophy is not the same everywhere. In most of the country, philosophy of Women at Capgemini is a network by women for women, and with strong community of women in delivery, women in finance, women in cybersecurity, etc., etc. And women help each other to succeed in this career path in this community. In France, with Valérie Masson-Cabanac, we decided to be an enabler of transformation of the company. It's a philosophy a bit different, because of course we animated network in women in delivery, etc., exist in France, and these are very strong community. But in the same moment, we try to transform, to be an enabler and to participate to the transformation of the company. We launched at the beginning of 23 10 projects to help the company to transform. Women at Capgemini exists since 10 years. We celebrated the 10th anniversary in October 22. And the first 10 years was dedicated to kind of assessment, but with interesting achievement. 2 examples. A platform web named La Perle, dedicated to collect sexist verbatim in the company, in the meeting, in the face-to-face. And we cannot imagine. When you read the verbatim, it's really amazing. So
they remain anonymous.
In the bad way.
Right, no, I understand, but
yeah.
they remain anonymous. It's just the quote.
Of course.
Yes, okay.
Of course. But it's a good enabler to be conscious of the gap.
Of course.
With a change of mindset of everyone. Okay, that's the first example. The second example, we launched a catalog of training courses dedicated to women. It's not condescending. It's because we saw that some training, like to dare ask raising of salary, for example, is not as easy for women than for men.
I will make a pause here, little advertising for a great book, if you haven't read it, called Women Don't Ask by Linda Babcock, written 15 years ago, still absolutely to date. Please continue.
Okay, so it's a second example of the achievement of the first 10 years of Women at Capgemini. From beginning of 23, we drive the movement with Valérie. And we decided to launch 10 projects. I will give you a few examples. First example, a guide for inclusive manager. I am I would like to be an inclusive manager in Capgemini. So I want to promote women, to push women, to promote diversity, gender diversity. I will have some issue to manage. For example, one of my collaborators come to me and say, okay, but if I am a man, 50 and more, white, heterosexual, my career is doomed. Okay, what's your answer? Okay, so we launch some brain about that, and we compile a guide to help inclusive manager to change the mindset, to explain, to convince, and to embark large men, women, young, less young, etc. The second example is another guide, a guide to pitch in the school, in what in French we call collège, especially for young women about 13, 14 years, because this is the age they will choose the career path they want. And young women are really stronger in mathematics than young boy. And after that, they do not pursue in mathematics. I don't know why, but we have to explain for the digital business what is the interest for them, what it needs for them. And we explain career path, we explain the interest of the digital business for all companies in the world. This job is not a job for geeks, so we are here to fight against cliché and to explain. So it's a guide with a quiz, with a QCM, with a lot of things to explain and to promote the attractivity of our business. Another example, of course, is mentoring, but we have two kinds of mentoring in the company. An internal one with 700 duo mentor-mentee, mixed, but with a cursor pushed for women.
Can you elaborate on that? So
yeah,
what does it mean,
70% women.
Right, and in what way are they?
In the company, there are 70% men.
Okay.
Okay, so it's the opposite.
Okay.
And the other mentoring model is with schools. We are partners. Engineer schools, we are partners. So women role model in the company are mentor for young students in order to help them to choose orientation and to answer the questions they ask, etc., etc., and as a woman role model. And the last achievement is the development of a network of ambassadors. We decided to hire 1% of the company as ambassador of Women at Capgemini in order to promote women at Capgemini in each personal ecosystems. But also, when I am a collaborator of Capgemini, most of the time I work for a customer. So in the ecosystem of the customer, in the ecosystem of my business unit, and so we decided to have 1% of the company to promote women at Capgemini everywhere within the company and within the personal ecosystem of everybody. That means 400 people, and now we reach 600. So we are above expectations, and it's a success. We want to go ahead and reach 1,000, but it's another story, maybe 25.
Wonderful. I have a question for the three of you. You mentioned that some cultures react differently to all these incentives that you put in place. Are there better cultures than others at making gender balance happen? Do you see some countries, if we look at the best proxy, probably, are some countries better than others at accelerating, particularly in scientific careers?
Of course.
And if so, which ones? Are we in them?
I would just take the example at Schneider. We, as I said, for AI activities, we are between India, France, and US. And strangely enough, the worst country is US in terms of percentage.
Very interesting.
Why, from a naive point of view, we would have thought that US would be like the, at least they would promote that, but what happens that we are, from memory, 16% of women in US, 28, I think, in France, which is an important hub for us between Grenoble and Paris. And finally, we are the best is India, with 32% from memory. And one interesting fact, not funny, that recently they had some specific event, local event in India to promote women in tech or women in AI digital activities. And somehow this was different from what we would do in France, because everyone was forced to assist to that. Why in France we do not force people to assist to some event. We strongly encourage them, but people are not like evaluated over specific attendance for attendance of specific event. While in India, at least from our colleagues, they were that was mandatory. And by a couple of discussions I had, I realized that that subject was brought maybe more recently, maybe that's a bit more intense, I would say, in some culture, but the reaction is also very intense as well. So I would say that, yeah, in some specific, let's say, maybe culture, maybe the adoption or the change are a bit faster. If I just take the example of France, once again, between my study, I think I was in engineering school with one of the highest percentage of women. That was about 22 or 23 from memory. And if I look now at the percentage of women in tech companies, this is not that much different. So it's getting better, but it hasn't changed that fast in France. Over the why maybe in India or maybe in some other cultures the change took after, but would change at a faster way, in a faster way.
And Stéphane and Patrick, is this? Do you also have countries standing out in your experiences?
I don't have a statistically representative sample, but what I can say is that in China, we are the team is especially in data science. We have many women in data science. So at least in what we've been able to recruit and attract, it's much easier for us in China versus here in France. So I agree with you. The worst place for us being the US.
Interesting. So similar in the relatively bad players. As we say in French, it's the shoemen who wear the worst shoes. Is that what you consider? What about you, Patrick?
I agree. The situation is very different from a country to another. For Capgemini, we are near for the parity in India. And India is a very huge country because half workforce of the group. 50% women in India, and I would like to talk about the situation of Morocco. Morocco is very interesting because the King Mohammed VI launched a very ambitious plan to promote women in engineer school, and today we are more than 4,000 in Morocco with the parity.
Interesting.
And
It's particularly interesting, I find, because in France we are living in the era of the Loi Copé-Zimmermann and the Loi Rixin, which forces to bring more women at our COMEX and our board of directors. And this is a very good thing, but there is the problem of the elephant in the room, which, by the way, none of us has talked about so far, which is the pool of women. And so what we find, there is data by reports by the company Heidrick and Struggle showing blatantly clearly that companies are actively recruiting women from abroad to get the correct competence level in these COMEX and this board of directors. But it's very interesting because it's, we tend to think, ooh, do we need women from abroad? Well, maybe we do. If they come from India, from what you're saying, they could also bring a culture and a way to look at gender balance that could be truly interesting.
from abroad and from other industry.
Yes, no, exactly, absolutely. So it's, again, it's through diversity rather than gender balance specifically, diversity more generally, that it can be highly beneficial. One last question before we grill Raphaël Gauthier about High Paris in our schools, because it relates to our schools. So again, the elephant in the room is the pool problem, right? All of you in private told me, well, one problem we bump into quite quickly is we recruit from the leading schools in this country, as you were saying, the schools that we are dealing with at High Paris, and there are not enough women to draw from. How do you manage that that aspect of the problem? Do you create your own pool? Do you go to schools to talk to girls of science or not yet of science? Stéphane, perhaps?
Yeah, we do go to schools.
Oh.
we try to be as active as we can. Being part of High Paris is one testimony of the fact that we want really to engage more and more with schools. Maybe we have a little bias in L'Oréal because as we are working on beauty, when you go to a school, even in engineering, girls will see that this is still science and technology, but that's beauty. So maybe I'll go there. So maybe we have an unfair advantage.
Okay, tech.
Yeah, it's okay tech. Maybe we have an unfair advantage there, but it's true that we are very active. As I mentioned. In mentoring, in welcoming students, we are in the Department of Research and Innovation, and we have a lot of theses that we support here. So we are actively engaging and trying to recruit women from there.
So you don't recruit from schools, obviously. What age do you talk to girls? What is the right age to talk to a girl that we hope is going to be in science? Is there a right age?
I think you need to talk at different ages, and that's what I was saying, that we were talking to high school girls, and you mentioned college. And I think it's also right, because as you mentioned, this is where you are good at math, you are good at science, but you don't project yourself as doing scientific studies. So I think, and coming back to what I was saying earlier, is also saying that you can do scientific studies and be a business leader.
So middle school is where it starts, and then you need to be present at every level. Dimitri,
I'd say I see that more than like a funnel, where at each step you lose a woman. So it starts at like middle school, and then each time you have to decide for your next orientation. It could be at high school, university. Then you lose a woman, and finally you've got, like 20-25% in engineering school, and even after that, you lose women when you start to recruit in like traditional companies, like automotive, aerospace, and so on. And after that, you lose in when you go to management and so on. So I would say that there is no right age to talk to women, but rather at the key phases where they decide their orientation, they decide where to go, and they decide the next career move. So this is where the mentoring sessions are I think interesting. So let's say you are in a woman in a company that do not promote enough women for the next career move, then I would say that this is the right time to change companies. So this is, I think this is now the way things can change also, you know, not only within one company. This is, as I said, a global world, you know, and we have to take that into consideration, that people would face, and especially women, at some point of their career, some blocking points. And this is where we need to talk and change that, yeah, I believe.
Patrick, do you agree on
Yeah,
on this analysis of the
yes,
ages?
I agree. Maybe just to complement, if we don't speak with youngest people, the proportion in engineer school will never increase. So during many years, we were in the engineer school to try to hire a maximum of people and maximum of women in engineer school. If we had spoken to youngest women at this stage, today the proportion in engineer school maybe would be higher. So we have to do that. We are doing that. We are 600 ambassadors, and if each one speak in a college or lycée, that means 600 schools where there is a speech each year. And maybe this is our contribution to have a higher proportion of women in the engineer school later. So our issue is that the return on investment is at 15 years. And maybe we will not be there to see that, but but it's not an option. We have
That's
to do
right.
that.
Yes, absolutely.
Maybe I think we need to talk at every age. You know, just to give you another example, for when you look at the people that are studying mathematics at licence or bachelor or master level, we've been discussing that with one of the universities in the Paris area, that we need to show what are the type of job that you can do within the industry when you have that background. Because one of the bias that they've seen is that when we've managed to have women studying mathematics at that level, which is already a lot of convincing, when you ask what you want to do, most of them will say, I want to teach. And so we also need to go there and say, look, there are plenty of jobs where you can use your mathematics background, which is, all the skills, all the soft skills, the way to solve problems that you learn when you do maths at that level, that are so vital for us. So telling them that, look, you have great skills developed through a strong career path in math that you can apply in a company like us and develop, and not only thinking, oh, the only thing I can do is teaching.
So maybe one of the biggest messages to send out there is to parents, please push your girls at keeping mathematics for as long as possible, something as simple as that. It is sometimes difficult. It is sometimes difficult also because the education system is struggling with the proper teaching of mathematics, making it interesting, making it fun. Here, one book. Sadly, I only have it in French, so practice your French. It's a great book. It's called Dingue de Maths. It's a book I recommend highly for any French-speaking family out there. It shows you how mathematics simply pervades everything in society today. That the future is going to be colored with mathematics, whether or not you like it, and we need women to be part of that. All right, Raphaël. So, you are the executive director of High Paris. High Paris is a center that was created between HEC Paris on the one hand and the engineering schools of the Institut Polytechnique de Paris. All of these schools share the pool issue, so they each of them individually tries to enforce greater gender balance. It's difficult because of the problems that we just evoked, meaning it starts way before people consider even going for these schools. How do you, in your position, embrace your mission of making gender balance happen on the other end of the tunnel? Because that's quite the
Difficult
mission.
question. We support schools, so but maybe to give you some facts and figures. So at IP Paris, so Institut Polytechnique de Paris, there are, because schools are places of talent. You mentioned the pool to recruit, but there are the pools of professors, and you are one of them. So it's also a question for schools to look at the gender balance and diversity on the side of the professors too. So at IP Paris, there are 27% of researchers who are women. The target is 40% by 2026, and I think that's important to mention, and an important vision. At HEC Paris level, the ratio is more 70% men, 30% women, which is, we could think it would be a little bit different, but not that much. And so I think the target is there also to, at the same time, have research showing the importance of diversity, looking also at some movement like the Me Too movement, or showcasing the biases, the inequalities, or the way to move for more equality within the research that professors do, men or women, but also to put in place systems to encourage having more women professors. And you talked about titles or words, so we talked about mentoring, but I think you would be a good example of the buddy system at HEC Paris between women professors. Maybe that's something you would like to mention, because for research...
It's interesting. It's something that we just put in place, so we're not particularly early in the game, so we're all learning and trying and remaining very agnostic and trying things out. But indeed, at least at HEC Paris, we are 30% of female researchers. I can tell you we have a lot of work to do, because there's simply a lack of awareness of our needs as women having scientific careers. It's not ill intentions, it's simply lack of awareness. And so to counter that, we created a buddy system. So it's not mentoring, it's still an English word, so we still need to come up with our own French vocabulary for it, in which a senior female faculty accompanies, converses with a junior female faculty in another department, so there's no conflict of interest, and advises, talks back, listens to any issue that woman might encounter on the path. It is my conviction that we actually need two people. We would need a man and a woman for this woman, because of course, being a woman, like other women, I don't ask sufficiently for promotions. By the way, I'm going to get there after this event. But it's in us, right? So it's a very complex issue, and yes, we're trying things out. But yeah, it takes time. We're really also in that temps long, right? In that long, very horizontal, really looking 15, 20 years down the line. I think everyone very quickly, the younger generations want to change everything right away. And that's very important, that's wonderful, you're going to change the world. But it's a complex issue. That's what I get to appreciate even more every year. And that's why the goal needs to absolutely remain 50%. But I want to hear more about other schools and other things that you have put in place.
Yeah. So if we stay at the schools level, so the founding schools that we have, they have put in place in a very enthusiastic and very pragmatic way some activities, some actions to promote gender balance. At IP Paris level, there is this gender equality plan that has been set at the whole level of Institut Polytechnique de Paris, and it is led by two COMEX members, one female, she's in that room, and one male, who were there last year during this same roundtable, Nicolas Glady and Sylvain Neveu. And so the idea is that they ensure that the plan is delivered. There are some referees within the schools. Nicolas mentioned that for the engineering school, it is very important to be proactive and to have actions in favor of talking about having everybody involved on the topic. So there are around 15 actions per year that are done We also have seen that some students from Telecom Paris have been involved in or have been reacting to the roundtable that we have today. So it means that it is there. They want to tackle the issue. They want to take part of it in it and to make things change. So I think it's a great movement that have started like 4 or 5 years ago, and they are following the plan year after year. And they have also been partnering with some associations, student associations, to involve them in the course of the actions they want to set. And at HEC Paris level, we talked about the research, the kind of research that are done, but also the mindset of transversality, interdisciplinary approach to it, and much more into also entrepreneurship, which is somehow crucial with AI, tech, deep tech. I think things are mixed over there, so it's interesting to see that approach. And in terms of programs, you mentioned that there were at Capgemini some trainings, so there are also some courses for leadership at HEC Paris, some things around those topics. There are some partnering with Laidlaw Foundation with some specific programs like stand-up program for women entrepreneurship that are not from the school. So there's also a societal implication to be sure that we can target society at large. So that's for the school, the founding school of High Paris. And if I go maybe deeper into High Paris and what we do, and to give you maybe some elements. So High Paris is at the service of science, business, and society. That's our raison d'être, in a way. And for us, that's very important for all the reasons you mentioned. In AI and data science, bias comes from humans. So if you do not have systems in place to be sure that you limit the biases, it's important. So we try to have in our events the more balanced ones in terms of speakers, moderators, organizers. So be it the summer school, be it the symposium, we have roughly between, it goes from a range from 26 to 50% of gender balance in what we do. And we think it's important. Sometimes it's also an issue of pool. Clearly, we do not have speakers maybe for everything, but for the next symposium in June, which will be on robotics, we have 40+% of speakers will going to be female speakers, female professors. Yeah. So that's something we are active about. For some activities that we run, liaising with the school to sensitize around AI and data science, to also open minds, say it is possible, it could be for you, it could be interesting. There are many ways to look at AI and data science. So the data bootcamps that we run, the hackathons that we do with the corporate donors. So we choose the topic to be sure that it is also attractive to the largest pool possible. And we have seen an increase in the percentage of female being in our events. So we are around 35, 36, it goes up. It's not a lot, but we are only 3 years.
That's right.
So this is something we are very careful about and willing to push forward, clearly. And we are a team. I'm with the 3 scientific directors. I'm leading it in terms of executive way. And we are 42% of women within the team, including the engineering team that we have, which is a key asset of the center. So yes, it's important also to promote that as a team, kind of walk the talk. And we also want to extend our actions with partnering with other organizations. So we have signed a tribune with Le Monde for mathematics, just because it is so important to have that kept within the curricula. But also we are involved with Data for Good, the association. Today we have been liaising with SISTA Association. So that kind of actions to push things forward. And I think education could be like kind of the problem because you don't have the right pool, but also can be part of the solution at the end. So I'm very enthusiastic and optimistic about it.
So Raphaël takes the bull by the horn. You always have. I've known you for a long time at HEC, so I think the center is in very good hands. I have a question for you, gentlemen, Stéphane, Patrick, and Dimitri. What is the one thing that Hi Paris can do for your organizations to help gender balance more than it currently is doing? If you are speechless, it's perfect. Is there anything that we can set up, think about, amplify, reinforce?
I'll be consistent, which is, you see me coming, which is really promoting the fact that, when you are a strong in engineering schools, you can be a strong businesswoman, and that's for me, because I keep hearing that time after time when we are pitching some topics for some capstone project. Yeah, this is a IP Paris school, so your topic is to business. We want a supply chain, or I said, I don't care. I think we can have topics that are really business oriented to engineering, and I'm sure that will help us to attract more women in, let's say, the engineering career, because they will see that they can do marketing in L'Oréal, even if they are graduating from Telecom Paris or Polytechnique.
So start with value creation and work backwards.
Yeah.
Dimitri?
Yeah, I would rather agree with Stefan. To kind of, I don't know how this could be done, but to kind of blur the frontiers between the trainings and the schools and the syllabus. We kept talking about mathematics and how it is important. Yes, it is true. However, the real issue is not only about being good at mathematics or computer science code, but also to bring like soft skills, communication and stuff like that. And this is, I think, new. I mean, I've myself graduated in mathematics like kind of a long time ago, and at that time there was no any other class than mathematics. Nothing about, I don't know, business, marketing, or even how, I don't know, a car works, or I mean, nothing else than the real, pure mathematics aspect. Now it has been changed a bit, obviously, but I think if we can bring, mixed syllabus or mixed, I don't know, programs or mixed population to tell them that it's not because you've graduated from Polytechnic that you have to be, I don't know, some head of I don't know what in your company, and you could do something else, and the other way around. It's not because you've done I don't know, management school that you won't be able to be data scientist, for instance. It's more a question of curiosity and open-mindedness.
Patrick?
It's a tricky question. I am not sure your students are fully aware that without IT, no company can work. I'm not sure.
Oh, they are. Given the IT problems on our campuses, they are well aware.
Okay. Because
the
digital transformation of company is key.
Yes.
And without IT, no plane can fly, no train can go ahead, no bank can work correctly. So all our companies have strong stakes about IT. And IT is not coding. IT is much more than coding. It's consulting, it's conception, it's testing, it's cybersecurity. Projects are complex, very interesting, many faces. And there are a lot of passionate jobs around IT. So maybe to answer your question is to generate more awareness about the complexity and the attractivity of this career path.
All right, which is feasible through education quite easily. Thank you. I'd like to make sure we have a little time because I know that there are many people in the room, number one. We also have people online, and I'd like to now open to the room and the online auditors if there are any questions.
So we have reactions. The first one is, I think what also big companies can do to encourage girls and women to study math is to make math tech women researchers, ambassadors of their brands. And she gave the example of L'Oréal, saying that girls and their parents don't read research journals, but everybody sees L'Oréal products in shops.
I think it's not a question, but I think I
reaction,
agree
yeah.
with the comments, which is showing that our companies, we have also some math and tech talents that can talk and that can strive, and that you can count on us to do that.
Thank you.
There is a question right behind you, yeah.
Hello. First of all, thank you so much for this interactive session. I really liked it. And I have a question, since I also come from a science background, and you mentioned that parents also play a main role in encouraging their girls to pursue that. But when I was choosing my science career and I went ahead with engineering, my parents were kind of skeptical behind that. And I would like to know that how can we make sure that parents are not scared of if their girls want to pursue that career, and they're not scared that their child will face some discrimination in the workplace or at the college if they go. Because when I joined my college, in a class of 60 students, there were around 8 girls only. So it was kind of a different scenario. So how can we make sure that parents are not scared of that? Thank you.
I can talk about, there's a lot of change ongoing, and it's going fast. Upon hearing your question, I thought immediately of a young HEC entrepreneur, Chloé Hermary, who a few years ago created the ATA Tech School. It's in Paris, it's a coding school, and she is very well aware that women who learn to code, if they are surrounded by a majority of men, they actually don't learn well. And she addressed that. So while in typical coding schools you have 70% men, 30% women, she did something similar to what you were talking about. She created a school where it is balanced, but with the opposite balance. So it's 70% women, 30% men. She has 100% employability at the exit. So to parents who are hesitant, there are structures being mounted and being extremely successful, of course. Given that doors are wide open, it's a jar for these women. There is such a thirst for it. And I think we're still in that lag where we remember being that girl within schools with that problem. It's changing so fast that parents have to be a little future-oriented and understand that and trust that, in my view. I don't know what you think.
I think we can only show examples, concrete example. If I go back to what I was mentioning, which is the 230 people in high school that we are supporting. Part of the program was also the parents. So we recognize that you can convince the girl, but you also still need to work on the parents. So I guess my advice is really try to see some examples on some ambassador, as one mentioned, that really prove that you can be really successful as a woman in a tech or science career, and we have some great examples. I quoted Barbara Lavernos at the beginning. She's the deputy CEO of L'Oréal, and we are among the top 50 companies in the world. And she's an HEI graduate. She started as a young engineer on the shop floor. And you see, you can start an engineering career. And you can go up to being the deputy CEO of such a big group. So that it's possible, and I think show by examples. And if you are ambitious, then I'm sure you will be able to the girls will be able to convince the parents.
Again, I think we're witnessing a systemic change, and it's something we don't talk about necessarily enough. But the change is ongoing. So come, take math, have fun. And parents all around, please make sure you encourage your daughters. Maybe one last question? Yes.
Thank you very much. I'm Jade. I'm a student currently at HEC in the MBA program. I have a question for the male speakers. So thank you very much, first of all. As male leaders, when it comes to decision-making on such topics, for women empowerment, gender balances, how do you get rid of your own biases in the end? How do you know that the decision you're about to make is relevant for women or will actually matter for such topics?
Okay, thank you for this question. You get what you measure. So we measure the proportion of women at the grade of VP. We measure the proportion of women in our steering committee, executive committee in each unit. And as Anne-Laure said, there is a new law coming in France, the Rixin law. And this is mandatory for company in 26 to reach certain level. 36% of women in the grade the most elevated and in the steering committee. And in 29, it will be around 40%. So it's not an option. And this is a mindset in all the company, in all our companies to reach this target. So I understood L'Oréal have not this problem, fortunately, because this is an opposite proportion. But in our company, this is really a concern, and we have to do a lot of to take a lot of actions and to measure the results and to drive all the unit. I give you an example. Each year we have a talent review, an annual talent review. And we decide to promote people who did a good performance during the year. And we are particularly focused on the promotion of women because this is very important. And as Anne-Laure said, we try to hire some women in the grade elevated. To promote them in the top of the pyramid as soon as it will be good for them and for the company. So all these actions are very focused for the company, and you get what you measure. So we measure all the results we can have.
Maybe a more. This is a process system, KPIs-driven decision, a more like gut feeling, which is personal. I think, more and more when I'm interacting with people on career progressions or making decisions or how to staff people, I'm not thinking man, woman. I'm thinking a person. And more and more, and that's true. Which is what are the skills? What are the talents? And I think when you work in the digital space, when you work with startups, you realize that if you want to develop, if you want to grow, the main decision that you need to make is making sure that you have the best talents around the table. And that's probably when you are a CEO of a startup, a founder, when you have invested, and it's the same for us in the company, which is how can I pick the best talent? And it's not a question of woman or man. It's not a question of French or US. It's a question of talents, and the pool of talents is the planet, and we need to make sure. And what is driving me is to make sure that wherever the talents come from, whether it's a man, a woman, wherever it comes from, I'm attracting the best talents.
Very humanist. Your soul managers. Dimitri?
Yeah, just one final tentative answer is that, and this is more personal and gut feeling as well, but I would say that you can't hide from your hidden bias first. That's a long journey, because I think we still have, we might think of that, we might have, I don't know, KPIs, we might think in terms of person instead of gender. However, I think we still have, all of us, somehow some bias, and the only way, specifically when it comes to talk. Maybe this is something I started like a couple of years ago, is first to stop talking and let people ask questions, because as you said, the title of your book is Women Don't Ask, for instance.
That's right.
So maybe one personal KPI would be how many questions women that you manage ask you. That could be a good way to elaborate on the bias you have. And yeah, I think that's a long journey. I mean, I personally started that journey having 2 daughters, for instance. I think I've considered a couple of things when they grew up. I think we should stay humble with respect to that, and say that there are a lot of bias that we cannot escape from, and that we should work to identify, and also we should ask questions on that, have some feedback on the people we manage. Do you think that we still have biases, and if so, could you name them? That's the only way. I mean, this is I think girls and boys work. I mean, that's the only way. Yeah, together.
So maybe you'll find the daughters behind the men working for balance in scientific careers. I wish to thank you all. It's unfortunately already time to close this event. Dimitri, Raphaël, Stéphane, Patrick, this was an incredibly rich exchange. Thank you for all the work that you're doing, and for the inspiration you brought today in emphasizing how, in order to reach the full benefits of mixité, of pure gender balance, it has to be a universal approach. Do you have words, by the way? I didn't forget that. So what's the words? Soul managers?
Coach.
Yeah, I would say coach as well. Yeah.
What about you, Patrick?
Manager, coach, yes.
Yeah? I like maestro. Or what about compagnon? Compagnonnage in French? I don't know, I like compagnonnage. No? Okay, yeah, we can talk more about it in the cocktail. For those online, sorry, there is an after event on site, and that's why you need to sign up for it. Thank you all for making time today to celebrate women and girls in science, and we look forward to seeing you at our next Hi Paris events, and also next year for the next edition of this one. Thank you. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you, Anne-Laure.
Thank you.